There you go.
Well, welcome everyone. So glad you're all here today. I am going to be a little bit back and forth between admitting people and getting this slideshow going, but at least I'll pull that up. So welcome to our first-time participants, as well as to our returning members. We're really glad that you're here. And here's what we have on the agenda today. We'll talk a little bit about the famous workbook right here. We will talk about class projects, the departmental advisory initiative, the blog, of course. Then we'll have a brief discussion and then a couple of updates. So Jennifer, take it away.
Thanks. All right. Yeah, I'm up first. So if you didn't already know, we launched our workbook on August 23rd. So now it's available. You want to go to the next slide?
Yep.
In both paperback and Kindle format. I do want to acknowledge, I know some people had asked for a different form of ebook with like EPUB. I don't know if we're going to do it for this round, but we'll definitely keep it in mind for future iterations of this. So at the time, I was just like really excited we got this out in terms of the amount of work that went into it. And it's available for only $10. Actually, right now there's a promotion running on Amazon for the Kindle version. So I believe if you purchase a copy, there's some credits that apply for the Kindle, whatever they're doing. So it actually reduces the price down to $7. So if you are somebody that likes ebook, definitely check that out. One of the things that we've observed through our departmental advisory initiative is a lot of career services departments have funding to support students in purchasing these types of resources, either for instructors for their classes, departments for all of their majors, or maybe even you as an individual student. So I just want to call that out. If, $10 feels like too much, there might be somebody who'd be happy to pay for it for you. So definitely connect with your career services around that. Again, the workbook, it contains 39 tools as well as exercises and other resources supporting those. All of the tools featured in this are the ones that you will find on our website under the job seeker and career tools under the for students section. And we've been doing really well. We're averaging around 100 books sold per week. I haven't checked what it is at today. And if there were any questions, the proceeds from this book were really funneling back into ACRN. So a lot of the operating costs have been being picked up by individuals. So this is to really help us reduce those costs. One, in terms of just publishing the book. So we made sure all the authors that contributed got a copy, as well as, all the ISBNs, and also purchasing swag and other types of expenses like booth rentals at conferences. We want to go to the next slide. So if you haven't already gotten a copy, maybe think about getting one for a friend that could maybe use it if they're going through a transition point in their life. But if you have your copy, please go ahead and leave us a review on Amazon. We've only got 2 ratings so far, both 5-star, which is great. But we definitely could use some more written reviews. So we just included a couple quick tips here. 100 books per week for the question in the comments. Thanks, Emily. So I think we're around 300 something at this rate.
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes to writing your review, think about what makes it readable for you is on the other end. So keep it short, and definitely include, personal examples of, how do you see this helping others? How has it maybe helped you? How could you see your students using it? As well as, what do you really like or love about it? If there's like a particular tool or resource you want to call out. So yeah, if you've got a copy, please go ahead and write us a review. Any questions on the workbook before I pass it back to Elizabeth? All right. Well, thank you all.
Yeah, thanks, Jennifer. And I just want to emphasize the review on Amazon does not need to be that long. I'm thinking 2 sentences would be great. So we would really value your time in just putting out a couple of sentences or a short paragraph. It's the number of reviews that count. And of course, what you say in the review. Okay, so next up, client-based class projects. We have, I just want to give you a brief introduction to client-based class projects in case you are unfamiliar with them. We started doing these in 2021. The first school we worked with was University of North Texas. This semester, we're working with two universities, one University of Delaware, and we have worked with Delaware before on one occasion, and University of Maine Farmington. And the professors who are teaching those two classes will speak to you in just a moment. In both cases, the projects have a client that they identified. And in both cases, the students are going to be doing research. These students are undergraduates. So it's a wonderful opportunity for them to get their feet wet with doing some ethnographic work. And you can see all the logos there. Those are all the different universities we have worked with to date. So now I'm going to turn it over to Carla, and Carla will tell you about the project that she and her students are working on. Carla?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Elizabeth, and greetings, everyone. I'm very happy to be part of this experiment on my end to give students the opportunity to work with a real-life client. And I just wanted to share that originally I paired up with the Career Center to try to find a number of different organizations who will welcome my students. And unfortunately, that didn't materialize as I had hoped. Only ACLU of Delaware responded. So I had to change the approach. And what we're doing now is that all of the students are answering the same question for ACLU of Delaware. So we, thanks to Elizabeth's brilliant guidance, we changed the question. They had a very narrow question that already had the answer in it. So what we did was to change the question to make it much larger and welcome students' opportunities to answer what is communication for the Latinx community in Delaware, and how do they obtain that, how do they reach to others. And the hope of ACLU of Delaware in answering this question is to find the best social media options to connect with them, to provide them not only with information about ACLU of Delaware, but also the resources that are available for the Latinx community. Down. I see a doggy there. No, Elizabeth Ryle and Jennifer came to visit our classroom and help us narrow down the expectations and also the work with the client. And then Elizabeth came when ACLU of Delaware's representatives were in the classroom as well. So I'm very excited about the opportunities, and I look forward to reporting how that goes. And thank you so much again, ACRN, for all your help on this.
Sure. Anybody have any questions or comments for Carla? You can also put comments in the chat, and then we can save the chat at the end.
Sure.
Okay, then now we'll move on to University of Maine Farmington, and Nicole Kellett is going to talk to us about her project.
All right. Thank you. Also, just like Carla said, thank you, Elizabeth and ACRN, for supporting this project. It's a great opportunity for me and for my students. And I really look forward to hearing all about Carla's research with your class and the findings. So this really is a wonderful opportunity. So I was in an ACRN meeting, and there was a call to work with a student group, a class. And so I reached out right away and said, I would love to do that. I've done a lot of community-based projects with this social science research methods class before, but it was primarily looking at issues at the university itself. And so looking at something in the community. So Farmington is a very small community. We're about 7,000 people. And so it's very intertwined. And so I didn't have to go look too far to find a client. I knew about the Center for Entrepreneurial Studies that is right downtown in downtown Farmington. They have a storefront, and they basically work with youth in the community, a lot of youth who are at risk of dropping out of school due to low attendance or issues with instability in their housing, food insecurity, things of that sort. But also some students that just basically have a lot of entrepreneurial spirit and want to work and create and sell their goods and learn some business techniques. And so I reached out to the director of the Center for Entrepreneurial Studies, and I've had multiple conversations with her and then also with Elizabeth. And Elizabeth came into our class to talk about what they're able to offer at ACRN. And then also with Bonita, the director of the center, about what it is that the students are getting from their experience. So really trying to hone in on the research question, but trying to assess what's working for the youth, and what maybe they want to see happen in the future. This center is really growing in all different sorts of projects. They've acquired land and contracts, state funding, federal funding, to do a lot of different kinds of entrepreneurial work. And so really trying to get feedback from the students about what's working and what they want to see moving forward. And so for my students, I have 13 students, and we're going to be approaching this from a couple different angles. They'll be doing interviews with the youth, also focus groups, and then a photo voice project. And the youth are age 10 to 25. And then also we're going to access hopefully some who have been in the program before who have sort of graduated and moved on. So I'm really excited to see what we find out. And my students are also quite nervous and excited to get moving. So thank you so much.
Who has a comment or question for Nicole?
Robert Hahn here. Sounds like a great placement, and the age difference isn't that big, so it's really a powerful group of people talking to people who very much like them. I think it's really powerful.
Yeah, thank you for that. I do think it's going to be really engaging and interesting. And Bonita said her students at the center are very excited about this and thinking about kind of what technique will work the best with what ages. And but yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of cross-fertilization that happens.
Irene, I saw your question in the chat on getting this process implemented. Do you mean the class projects or the entrepreneurial program?
Yeah, like the general class project, because I do think this is really cool, and I'm currently in school, and when I talk to people in my cohort, a lot of them are like, oh, I wish I had some like real life experience before I graduate. So I think figuring out like how this can be implemented in my school, even if it's not the same project focus, would be really cool to know.
Well, and these types of experiences are things that we're introducing as a part of the departmental advisory initiative. So maybe your school might be a good candidate for that. So we can touch base after and see about that. Patrick?
Yeah, can you expand more on what kind of assessments are involved in these class? Like, what kind of output are the students doing for this project? What are they submitting at the end of the term, or how they like? Is it a community talk, or is it a poster, or what kind of things are they doing and making in these kinds of courses?
Yeah, it varies. It depends on what the focus of their project is. Currently, we've had 3 different types of projects. Many of them have been research-based. So the students actually do a piece of ethnographic research of some type, prepare a PowerPoint presentation, and deliver that to the client. Then we post that material along with the syllabus and so on up on our website, and you can take a look at what we have up there. There are 9 different projects listed so far. It's under the instructor page. So research is one type. Then the second type are case studies. We have found that anthropology students, will go off and start learning how to interview with a potential employer, and they can get asked questions like, well, what good is anthropology? Why should I hire you? This kind of thing. And it occurred to us that they may not have something that would wow the person directly that was interviewing them, but they can always rely on case studies of that anthropologists have been involved in. You know, everyone who is an anthropologist and gets an advanced degree ends up with some form of research training, and some of those projects are really quite memorable. So a few of the classes have developed, have explored the literature on case studies, many of which are prize-winning case studies, and then those get turned into very brief, how would you describe them? Little synopses of what the case was about. So what was the problem? How did the researcher go about attacking the problem? And then what was the outcome? So it's very simple, straightforward, that you can then learn and be ready for during your interviews.
They're
So
basically star stories is what they are.
yeah, they're right.
You know, the star
Exactly.
method, that's that you can just regurgitate these things very quickly, and they make sense to people who are listening to you. Yeah.
Yep. And then the third type of project are blog posts and podcasts. So the professor can decide what their preferences are for the type of work they would like their student to do. Sometimes it depends on the actual class they're teaching. Sometimes it depends on you know, how experienced the students are, if they're brand new undergraduates versus if they are, you know, later undergraduates or graduate students. Carla?
Yes, in my case, I chose for my students to write a report and also to give a presentation to the client, and ACRN will be there present also to observe. And I did the writing report because this course in particular fulfills the second writing requirement for my students. So I had to combine those two things together, but there are many other options that you can choose from.
Right, and I see in the chat, maybe I didn't answer you directly, Patrick. Sorry about that if I didn't.
No, you did. I mean, everything you mentioned could be assessed in the classroom as well, so it's totally fine. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, it's just this is a way for the students to work with each other. So we at ACRN are not so concerned about the grading. Of course, you have to be, but there are ways to deal with that. But basically, it's a collective project, and that means that the students have to come up with how they are going to work together under, you know, supervision and guidance to pull it off in a fairly tight time frame. Nicole?
Yeah, I just wanted to say I think that is a good question as far as, you know, one, this is a project and then, but also the grading pieces. And so I kind of struggled with that as far as how am I going to assess their involvement in this. And so one thing I put into the syllabus is that within each of the groups, so one group will be focused on focus groups, one on photo voice, one on interviews. And so they have to, as a group, develop a proposal. So kind of a mini proposal of how they're going to be approaching this, have, you know, interview guides or whatever it might be, a plan of action, and this all laid out. Also, I'll be incorporating in that requirement that they've done some literature review kind of around this topic so they have some context. And then I'll also later in the semester have them, each group present their findings so then we can see what did this group discover, this group, and then do some much more sort of cross analysis of the themes that we're seeing more broadly. And then the final presentation. So those are some of the pieces I put in to have some evaluation.
And to follow up on Irene's earlier question too, you know, like a lot of this needs to be instructor led in terms of the class projects. But if your school's not offering that, this is maybe something you could explore as a potential independent study. And if you do look into doing that, I'd be open to helping support somebody in thinking that through.
There's a fairly active anthropology club on CSUN's campus, so I think it could be something through there.
Okay, great. All right, so any other questions for the two presenters, Carla or Nicole?
I'm
Okay,
relevant.
yeah, go ahead.
What common problems do you encounter in this kind of class, and like how have you dealt with them?
I can share that in my case, I think I could share two problems. The first one is to identify the agencies. In the beginning, as I mentioned, I started last semester with the idea, and I contacted the Career Center, and they helped me create a document identifying agencies that could collaborate. And I was not successful. Again, I only could connect with ACLU. And the other issue is that my students are asking me, how are we going to support each other in the process rather than compete? And I told them from the beginning, this is not a competition. So what I did for that is to create a Google Doc to which everyone has access. So in effect, everyone will see what the other group is working on. So then they try not to replicate information, but learn from it and work on their own activity. So those would be examples, and maybe I'll get more problems that I will need to deal with as they come.
That's great, Carla. I'm going to copy that Google Doc idea across the groups. One thing that I've come across, and I don't know if it's a problem yet, but that we're working with minors. And so I've submitted the IRB because we have course-related approval for the class in general, but I had to submit an addendum because of working with minors. And so now they are requiring that I have a parental assent form with the consent form. And so the director doesn't think that that will be a problem. But so basically, I'm sort of navigating that bureaucracy of the IRB right now. And I think just working with younger children, making sure, okay, where are these interviews going to take place at a location that the parents feel comfortable, but then they'll have privacy. So some of those logistics we're working through, I think, are a little bit challenging.
Carla, you had something else?
Yes, I just wanted to add that another problem was the language issue because my students will be working with Latinx populations. So to resolve that, each group has at least one person who speaks Spanish.
Super.
All right. I don't think your name's Hagel, but get your hand up.
Christine Hagel. Hi.
Hi,
Hi, Elizabeth. Good to see you. Actually, Nicole just answered my question. My question was about the IRB because you are working with minors. And so, yeah, sometimes I feel like the time that it takes to go through the IRB process then presents a kind of inherent challenge to accomplish such a project within the course of the semester. So far, I have specifically tried to avoid working with protected populations for that reason, because I'm worried about the blocks, but sounds like you've surmounted that.
Yeah, I think it helps that we are such a small institution. So the layers of bureaucracy are a little bit less. And so I'm able to go directly to the IRB chair and communicate. And so that definitely helps. But yeah, it can be a bit of a barrier for sure.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
All right, now we're going to move on to the Departmental Advisory Initiative, and Ryle will tell you everything.
Well, not everything, but yes, I'll tell you some things anyway. We'll keep back some of the juicier parts of this, stories yet to be told. So you know pretty much what this Departmental Advisory Initiative is. We've reached out to various schools and we've been quite pleased with the uptake. We've got 4 schools, 2 of whom we've already done this with. We're getting ready to do this down at Texas A&M next week. And then the week after that, I think, Elizabeth, or maybe it's the week after that, we'll be at Westchester outside of Philadelphia. So this is it's basically a sort of a consulting session with the anthropology department to help them figure out how can they build more career readiness into their existing curriculum? What are the different ways that they can do that? And it's been a very, very interesting experience, I think, for everybody involved. The idea is to help them figure out how to change and extend the curriculum in certain ways. We enter into an agreement with them which lasts for 12 months, during which we come in for 2 days at the beginning, We all make a plan collectively. They carry out the plan. We have consultations with them at regular intervals. And 12 months later, whatever it is they decided to do is finished. They do some work for us, which we call pre-work. We send them a form, actually, and they sort of fill it out. And we get very, very interesting information from them. It's a whole bunch of stuff that we ask them for, but in particular, we want to know a lot about the department right now. How many students, how many majors, what sorts of emphases, blah, blah, blah. But we also want to know from them in advance. We say, pick 3 things that as a department, you think you might like to do. And they can be as specific or as general about those things, but we'd like to know that. We'd like to get them thinking about that in advance. We go down, we make a presentation where we talk to them about what ACRN is, what we do. We answer their questions. Then we start asking them a whole lot of questions about how their department works. And of course, there are people in the room that are strangers to us, and so we're all getting to know each other. It's really very, very interesting. We break up into sort of working group discussions. Some of us work on this, some of us work on that. We have a sort of a design workshop with them in the afternoon, which lasts a long time. We do whiteboard work. We sort of, we get into discussions and so forth. And by the end of that day, we are pretty well down the road toward figuring out what it is they might like to do. Lots and lots of issues come up. What would you like to do? What can you do? What can't you do? What does the governor say about this? What do the Republicans say about this? What do the students say about this? We get it. We get it all. It's an ethnography. It's fascinating. But the next day we do a closing presentation where Elizabeth goes over stuff and she says, "This is what I heard you saying. This is what I think we agreed to. Is that right? Are we gonna work on these things?" And she gets them to start making an implementation plan. Elizabeth likes Gantt charts, so she gets them to do a Gantt chart. I've watched this woman work now for quite a while. She's really, really good at talking people into doing things. So even though if they've never heard of a Gantt chart, by the time they're done with her, they know all about it. And they promise that they will do one for her. And then we set up quarterly follow-ups via Zoom. So Delaware was the first, IU was the second, A&M is going to be the third, and then Westchester is the fourth. What I'd like to do, if you can go to the next slide, I guess I've been over most of this already, but this is the schedule. So what I just finished saying is here in visual form for you. I'll give you a few minutes to sort of just look at it. The pre-work part, okay, where we get information from them and we ask them for the 3 areas that we might be able to help them with. And then we do an all-day workshop with them. And then, of course, we finish up on the last day and we walk away with promises made. This was the agenda this was the agenda at what you call it. No, this is the agenda coming up at Texas. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so this is the way it's going to work for us at Texas. I have to get up at an absolutely ungodly hour. And be warned, anybody, flying into College Station, Texas isn't anywhere near as easy as you think it is. And so I have to get up at like 3 in the morning to get down there. Anyway, we'll tell you how it goes when we're all done. Go to the next slide, because what I want to talk a little bit about is what we are learning from this. This is the fascinating part to me. The learning is amazing. I made a few notes. Let me just get my glasses on here. The first thing is that this career readiness thing is fascinating for most instructors, but they're a little bit scared of it because, they tend to think of, oh, this is something the administration wants. I mean, IU, for example, down at Indiana, there is a definite push from the administration to have more career readiness and experiential learning built into their classes, not just in anthropology, but across the board. So they're a little bit anxious about that. They're also ready to go, though. I mean, they're saying, okay, let's see what this is. Let's see what we can do with it. They do express the concerns that we've heard over and over again from people. They don't have enough expertise themselves to teach it, and they're not really sure how they should mechanically do these things. How do you put experiential learning into a class? They kept asking us a bunch of questions, which basically all boiled down to that. But once they get started, and keep in mind they're in a big room here. We're in the conference room. We're all sitting around. Now the entire department hardly ever comes into this, but most of them do, and they might drift in and out during the day. But in the course of the 2.5 days, just about everybody has a say, and it's fascinating. I was expecting resistance. I was expecting arguing. We got none of that. We got a very, very honest set of conversations between instructors who, I think some of them for the first time were finding out what somebody else in their department was doing, what they were teaching. I thought that was absolutely amazing. They learned what each other were doing. They also learned something fascinating to both, I think, Elizabeth and I. This happened at Delaware and it happened at IU. They learned about what other groups on campus are doing, in particular, the career centers. Both of these universities have career centers. Both career centers turned out to be major resources for these departments in ways that they had not necessarily anticipated. I mean, a department's busy all the time. They're busy with all sorts of stuff. And so it's not too surprising that they didn't sort of fully understand all the resources that were available to them. But in both cases, at Delaware and at IU, people from the Career Center came over and sat in on our meetings. And every now and then somebody said, well, I'd like to get internships for our students, but I can't afford to pay them and I don't have time to go out and look for the internships. The guy from the Career Center raised his hand and says, we do that. We can do that for you. And we can pay your students. And everybody turned around and said, really? He said, yeah, we've got a program. So that was something fascinating for I think all of us. They also learned from Elizabeth and I and Jennifer and other people really who were there about what's going on other campuses, because they're not the only ones. And it makes them feel better that they're not the only people trying to figure this out. And we can bring in increasing numbers, numbers, I suppose you'd call it, of case studies, of examples from other universities to sort of show them and say, well, get in touch with so-and-so at this university. She'll help you figure that out. And finally, it was a lot of fun and very interesting watching them talk to one another and brainstorm, because I may have gotten a jaded impression of academic departments from my time in academia, but these folks were not doing the usual yes, but this, yes, but that. They weren't doing that. They were finding ways to solve problems together. And it was very, very positive and a lot of fun to watch. So I really am so happy with this initiative.
God, what is all this travel?
What's that?
I think it was just background noise.
Oh, okay. Somebody just yelling in the background.
Yeah.
But what I was just going to finish by saying was that I am so happy that we did this. I wasn't really sure. I don't think Elizabeth was really sure what we were going to get out of this, whether this was going to drop like a lead balloon or what. I don't think it has at all. And I am really looking forward to going down to Texas A&M, and maybe my dreams will go down in flames, but I'm telling you, I think we're on a roll with this, and I think it's going to be a big help to these departments, and it's going to make ACRN a whole lot smarter about how to work with people in the future. So the benefit is on both sides. I'll stop. That's as much as I wanted to say about this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
we
just
get.
stop the share for a second. Go ahead, Jennifer.
I was going to say, yeah, we had quite a few questions in the chat. I also wanted to say it was really nice, full circle for me going back to IU as a former student there. So it was nice to be like, I wish I had this, but I'm glad I can make sure it's here for others. One of the questions, Rebecca, around having administrators in the room, we really encourage to bring in any stakeholders at the university that you think should be a part of those discussions. So yeah, if you've got a member of the admin that would want to join, we definitely encourage that. Career Services, as Raul mentioned, is a great group to have in the room because they may have resources you didn't even know about. Are there any others with Delaware? Did you have anybody else in the room?
We had the Student
Sorry,
Success Center, which is a different office, different from the Career Center. It has a different purpose. And we also did have administration present. We had the dean, come visit the associate
Yep.
dean. So yeah, we had quite a bit of buyout in the end.
Could I just
Awesome.
follow up on that a minute?
Sure.
So I'm so thrilled to be here with everybody. I tried to join last time late, and I couldn't get in, and then Elizabeth and I have emailed a little bit, but thank you all for this just great network and for the work you all are doing with departments. Elizabeth, I could try to sort out with you at some point how to get what I have to say on the agenda, because it will take more than just a few minutes. But let me just say regarding administrators, I am at Fort Lewis College. We should be one of the most well-known anthropology programs. I'm in the Southwest Colorado, 36 miles from entrance to Mesa Verde National Park. And we have been severely marginalized. And I think a lot of our problems are almost the opposite of what you're talking about here. I mean, we train students. We cannot provide enough students for the job requests that we get in cultural resource management, including ethnography and archaeology. We're severely marginalized. We've lost, our majors have dropped in half. A lot of that's because we serve 40% Native American population, and administration has gotten Native empowerment confused with anti-anthropology, and it's just all a big mess here. And I might be chair starting next year for a few years, and I'd love to have you all come in. We also have NAGPRA issues.
Mhm.
So when I said administrators, just to circle back as quickly as I can, we lost an archaeologist, and they're not replacing that person because of our low enrollment. But they've never told us you need to work on your enrollment, because we've never really had to.
Right.
So our enrollment's been cut in half, literally, in the last few years. And then we keep telling them, because they're talking about workforce, we don't have enough students to give all these consulting companies, because the green infrastructure initiatives across the country in environmental and cultural resource consulting. So they have no understanding whatsoever. And we've got a revolving door with itinerant deans and provosts and presidents right now too. So,
Right.
maybe that's something we could tailor, and it would be somebody other than just me. I have a joint appointment in environmental studies and anthropology, and I've tried to keep my foot in two doors as a practitioner and an academic for about 23 years. And then prior to that was just a practitioner. So, I mean, we're just kind of all over the place, but we really could use some outside help that is somewhat neutral.
Yeah, I
But
think
we're already
that's
providing amazing skills. We could do more with that, but we need others at our institution to
Right.
understand us.
Yeah.
that I think is the value of this DAI program, in part because we're just a bunch of outsiders. We know nothing except what we learn through the pre-work, and then when we finally meet people there. So we come with fresh eyes. Just as, an anthropologist walks into field work, and, you're hit with all these different things, and you have to sort through them, and you got to do it quickly. So in a lot of ways, it's like doing a very rapid ethnography to try to figure out how can we help them with something that they think they want to do. It's fascinating, and every place is different. We have a template now that we use to structure the presentations that we develop and then give them, as after we've returned home, and then we put them on a quarterly Zoom call for the next year, for the next 12 months. So it's highly structured in that sense, but they're working on what they said they wanted to work on.
Yeah, and a lot of the solutions, it's not all one size fits all. It's really like understanding your unique context and your unique opportunities within your institution. And yeah, sometimes it comes down to like marketing. So we need to sell up and be like, yeah, maybe we do need another archaeologist in here if you want to actually increase overall enrollment in the university. So
yeah, thank you.
Yeah, any other thoughts on the DAI initiative? Oh, Sean, please.
Yeah, actually, so quick thought going back to the group project thing. From my experience going through group projects and also watching how at Rolls-Royce we work with interns, We had regular check-ins during the semester where people reported on what they were doing. And in the group projects, we were all working on the same thing. We took it for granted that we weren't competing against each other. And then the presentations enforced kind of, okay, let's just compare notes. That assumption may not work for what you guys are doing, but maybe having progress reports during the semester can help. Again, that's something I didn't realize until listening, that I just take it for granted. With regards to this department initiative thing, an offer and a comment. I'm an hour and a half up the road from Bloomington, so if I can be of help,
Thank you.
But I know anyway, that's an offer. Also, going on 13 or 14 years ago, I think, I was talking with somebody at what was then IUPUI and their anthropology department, and they were playing in this sandbox of getting their students into resource management and other projects, and then into careers in that space, right? I don't know how they're related to IU Bloomington, given the IUPUI divorce. I don't even know if those people are still around, but maybe you could do hey, do you know somebody who knows somebody? Because that's at least another data point in Indiana, and it's part of the IU network, so it could help these folks in Bloomington. And I'd be shocked if they know what their colleagues up in Indianapolis are doing.
Well, yeah, we were kind of shocked that the professors in the same department didn't know what their colleagues were doing. So
one of the things,
but now they do. They're learning how to do that now. That's good.
Yeah, but you're absolutely right, Sean. I mean, I'm at Purdue, okay, and so Purdue, IUPUI, and IU are all sort of, in a kind of an unholy triangle with one another. And there are stories to be told. You're laughing. I know I'd be laughing. I'm laughing too. I don't work there anymore. They're all good places, but they have their issues. One of the things that as an observation, I think that all anthropology departments, if they expect to survive, I'm not putting that in dramatic terms for no reason. I think some of them are really in trouble. I don't know that anybody here on this Zoom is in trouble, but if they expect to thrive, let's put it that way, they need to start paying attention to what's around them. Because it's amazing to me how few of these tenured full professors don't know anything about how their administration makes decisions. They don't know anything about how their state legislature makes decisions. They're very quick with, oh, they're a bunch of bastards. They do this, they do that. They're right wing. They don't like us, yada, yada, yada. And when you start asking them, well, what do you actually know about these folks? It turns out not much. And I have always learned in my work as a practitioner that the more you know about the context in which you're working, the better job you can do. So, I think that one of the things that this DAI program or project that we have is showing me is that once people start in a department looking at a problem like, say, enrollment or putting, experiential learning into more classes, they actually do start asking, well, what's out there for us? What can we learn from what's around us? And so it's having a very good effect. I don't mean to sound critical about it, but I do think that for a long time, departments have seen themselves as sort of sanctuaries. And you don't leave a sanctuary unless you are obliged to. But I think the time has come to, as one of my friends said to me the other day, you don't need a weatherman to know which way the wind blows, but you do damn well need to go outside. And that's what you need to do. You need to get out, walk across the quad to the administration building and find out, how do they allocate TAs? How do they do budgets? Anyway, just a comment. That's what I'm picking up.
So could I jump in for just a sec here again, or does somebody else have something?
No, we do need to move on.
So
go ahead.
Okay, this is just a really great example, though, of this kind of opposite situation that we're in. So Fort Lewis College prides itself on experiential learning, but we're in a very small town in Durango, Colorado. So we have an issue of like saturation within the community and kind of over research, and also I think a real danger of the conflation of experiential with applied. So it doesn't mean that you are helping to solve any kind of a problem whatsoever, just because you get students out into the community. So, we pride ourselves in being good at that, but in terms of helping what's going on around us, that's another thing that we could use some help explaining to administrators, and in some cases to each other. For example, not knowing or even caring, I'll sound a little bit, I don't know what the word is, but hurt feelings. I just got a task agreement with the National Park Service Cultural Anthropology Program, and nobody in my department seems to really even care.
Right.
Yeah, that should be
Two
celebrated.
people work on that project, and for me, it's my second one with them, but it's really exciting to be able to do. So I think you're going to find that more and more, people not knowing what each other does, and then whether or not they care is another question.
Right. Okay, we're going to have to stop there, but we can continue that conversation, and if you would like us to come out, Rebecca, please, let's get it on the calendar.
Well, I'm on
Whenever.
sabbatical right now, and so we can talk again in the winter and see
Okay.
maybe for next year.
That sounds great. Priscilla,
Hi.
update on the blog posts?
Yeah, I think we're moving along. We've had a very good response this year, and a lot of variety, which is very, very interesting to me to see the really thought-provoking and different kinds of experiences that our anthropologists are offering to the blog. I really don't have too much to say other than if everybody in this meeting wrote a blog, we'd be sitting pretty for the rest of the year. So, even if thousands of blog topics raced through my head as I heard this presentation this afternoon. So, really, even if it's just a small portion of what you're doing, it doesn't have to be the whole overview, but if you have an insight into some aspect of what you're working on, and it can take 750 to 850 words, we'd love to get it. We'd love to hear from you. So Elizabeth is a wonderful working partner with me, and I just look forward to every single blog I get. So that's all I can say.
Yeah, and as Priscilla said, we will accept blogs from everybody, students, practitioners, instructors, administrators. We don't care. If you have a good topic that relates to careers or career preparation, we're ready for you. So please consider that. It can get a little tricky to constantly be, on the lookout for the next blog. So if at least some of you could write, as well as write that little Amazon review for Career Tools for Anthropology, we would be very grateful. Okay, we have just a few minutes left. I'd like to take maybe 5 minutes, 6 minutes, and just talk about ACRN and think about it in terms of what might we do or could we do in terms of future collaboration opportunities with anyone, with any organization, with any university, with any group of people. I just like to hear verbally if you have thoughts. I know it's a very broad question, intentionally so. You could put your comments in the chat as well. It may be that nothing will come of this, but we just decide that it's good to have as much interaction as we can on these short Zoom calls.
And yeah, you can dream big. Way to go, Rebecca, and bringing in Barack Obama. Now, if we get into a documentary on anthropology and his mom, that would be the real win, right?
Yeah, Carissa, please go ahead. You can just shout out.
All right. Oh, it's so blurry. Just a second. Okay. Good afternoon, all. Thanks for having me. This is the first, are we calling it ACRN? Is that what we're calling it?
ACRN or
I
ACRN,
kind of love
whatever.
that.
Yeah.
The first one I've been able to join, so happy to be here. I am actually an applied anthropologist and I do some career coaching stuff, basically on developing careers outside of academia exclusively. And I do work with some broader majors as well. So not just anthropology, like broader in social science. And so I have kind of a network of people as well. So I'm going to shamelessly pitch that it would be really cool to do some sort of collaboration in a series of blog posts maybe, or I'm located in Reno, Nevada. So if you're trying to reach some institutions that are farther west, I have an extensive network of contacts kind of in the Western US where my entire career has been that I can help contribute. I found you guys because you're doing very similar stuff that I've been trying to do as a solo one-person act. So it would be awesome to kind of combine forces in the best way possible to do something together. So
Sure, that sounds like a great idea, and we'll put it down to follow up with you. Traveling for the next couple of weeks, so nothing immediate, but in a little bit we can absolutely touch base with you.
yeah, that sounds great. And actually, if anybody's a Society of American Archaeology member or an RPA member, I'm doing a talk on October 8th for their continuing education credits
cool.
on applying anthropological methods to build better workplaces. So slightly different, not more towards the career, but using applied anthropology to build better businesses, basically from the inside out, online. So if anybody's interested in registering for that, it's free if you're a member.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
How do you get the URL or whatever to participate?
I can drop it in the chat.
Yeah, why don't you do
find
that?
it real quick, and I'll do that.
Great, thank you.
Awesome.
Yes. Yeah, thanks. So one of the things I'm trying to do is build more support in my interdisciplinary department and at my university to do client-based research. I've done it, but my colleagues are generally concerned about putting students in a position of having to produce work for a client. In other words, they are worried about the pressure. They're worried about our students not living up to expectations. They're, and so forth. And so I feel like it would be really helpful if some of you who are currently doing client-based projects, if there's a way to produce even just a one-pager, like almost like the PowerPoint slides that you just showed us, but maybe a little more elaborated about some of the nuts and bolts of that, and in particular, like the outcomes, educational outcomes, but also successful outcomes for the client. I think that would be really useful for me to be able to show my colleagues and administrators.
That'll be coming, I think, eventually. We are starting. You may remember we did a like a wheel like thing, like a wagon wheel, and we said this is a curriculum which is designed to promote job readiness, and it's set over a traditional curriculum, so it's not a different curriculum. It's an extension or an enhancement of what's already being taught. One of the things in that was just what you're talking about, student-led projects, right, which extend the learning out and involve clients. And for each and every one of those aspects of the curriculum on that wheel, we're going to produce at least one, probably several, wouldn't you think, Elizabeth, tools, right, for these, showing instructors exactly. I mean, it's not prescriptive, but it's sort of saying, if you're looking for examples of how to do this, here are 3 or 4 different models that have worked for other people, and you might find them if they work for you.
And Jennifer dropped the link into the chat. And so I'm seeing all of that stuff, and that'll be super useful. So now maybe I don't need to create work for anybody else.
We do love work.
We're on the case.
I think the more case studies, the better. But I shared a link to our how do you set up a client-based class project tool that's under the instructors area on our website. as well as we've got that collection of case studies that might be helpful as well. So that was that other link.
Yeah, we've done some of this already, and so what we're going to do is collect it, if you see what I mean, and sort of put it out all together. But if you go on the website, you will see, some of this stuff already out there.
And I
That's
think
great.
it's a great idea, and I was already volunteering, Nicole, for the two of us to work together in one, since we're doing it during the same semester, and we're going to visit each other's classes.
That's great. And I just note that I saw your question about collaborating with Epic. It's funny that you asked that because actually I just came back from Epic, and one of the people I met at Epic, who happens to live in Connecticut, not too far from my institution, I'm going to have her serve on a kind of community advisory board to sort of identify potential partners. So I think you're absolutely right that like thinking with Epic folks is going to be useful for us.
Yeah, thank you, Ed. That's a good comment.
Yeah, definitely open to it. I had hoped to go this year, but it didn't work out.
All right, we just have a couple of things left. Updates. Okay. Are any of you who are on this call thinking of going to the AAA meetings in Tampa, Florida? If you are, would you please put your name in the chat and let us know? Because NAPA, which is the National Association for the Practice of Anthropology, NAPA runs, along with AAA, runs a Careers Expo on the Friday of these meetings, and they would really like us to have a booth. And unfortunately, this year I cannot attend due to family issues. So we've identified 2 possible people so far. And the idea is, you can see from the photos, you sit at a booth in the exhibit hall and you just chat with people from 11 o'clock until 4 o'clock. And it is a blast. It is so fun. And so if any of you are going, please let me know, and we can then add you to the schedule. You put in an hour or 2 hours or however much time you would like. And you basically are talking about ACRN. We will have some materials for you. And they also offer you a brunch. So thank you. And then one last thing, Scarlett has a brand new podcast, which is called A Day in the Life of a Digital Anthropologist. And she is looking for other people that she can interview. So if you would like to be interviewed by Scarlett, you can see her email down at the bottom of the slide there. And then, of course, we will be posting all the slides on the website, and those should be up, within the next few days. And I think that's basically what we have for you. So the next meeting is in 2 months, because we're on a bi-monthly schedule. And then in between this meeting and the next, you'll get a newsletter with just some updates in it. But thank you all for attending today. We appreciate it, and appreciate the contributions that you've made.
Yeah, and feel free to reach out via email if you've got questions to follow up on.
Yep.
Thanks, everybody.
Right.
Thanks, Cindy.
Thank you.
Thank you.